Hey guys, Venomous here. I got a brand new OTGT for you, and today I'm talking about boss fights, okay? Recently, in case you guys didn't know, I've been playing Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep for quite a while on my PlayStation Portable, my PSP, okay? I love this game. This game's amazing. It's a great addition to the PSP, to the Kingdom Hearts franchise, okay? It's a great game on the PSP, and I definitely recommend that you guys pick this up. But I'm not talking about specifically how the game is, okay? I'm talking about this one boss fight specifically, okay? And boss fights in general. In the game, once you beat all three character stories and you beat what's called the final episode, which is pretty much the pro or the epilogue of the actual Birth by Sleep game, stuff that kind of ties in both Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, to Birth by Sleep, and then gives a little more insight on a third Kingdom Hearts game. Spoiler alert there. But, not too much, but just to let you guys know there's going to be a third Kingdom Hearts game. But anyway, reason why I bring this up, okay, is after you do all that stuff, you complete all the character stories, and you get a good amount of the Trinity report done, depending on what difficulty that you're playing on, you get access to these two major boss fights, okay, or these two secret boss fights, I should say, that are pretty much, push you to the limits of what you've actually done in the game so far, okay? You have to be a really high level, and you have to do a little bit of grinding and leveling up to actually face these two bosses. The first boss is called Vanitas Sentiment, okay? It's a little bit kind of a play a little bit on the actual Vanitas villain that's in Birth by Sleep, and there's an expansion of stuff on top of that. But this is one of the most ridiculous boss fights I've ever seen in a video game. It's not super hard, but it's hard enough where you have to know a pattern, you have to have a certain build and setup, and you need to be at a certain level. Otherwise, this boss completely decimates you. And I'm pretty sure a lot of Kingdom Hearts fans out there have already beaten this boss and stuff, and at least looked up online on GameFAQs and stuff on how to actually fight a boss like this. Okay, but safe to say that wasn't my biggest issue with this. Okay. My biggest issue is the boss fight after that. Once you beat Vanitas Sentiment, which is a challenge in itself, and you actually get a keyblade called the Zero Gear from beating Vanitas Sentiment. And it's kind of a little bit of a stronger strength version of the Ultimate Keyblade. It just doesn't have as good magic, and is not as balanced as the Ultimate Keyblade. But you get an extra Keyblade from doing that, and it has more strength. So you could use this Keyblade theoretically to fight the next boss. This next boss is ridiculous. It's called the Mysterious Figure, okay? You go back to the main world, which is called the Land of Departure, and if you've beaten Vanitas Sentiment, okay, this cutscene right from the very get-go when you go into the level starts up, and you have to actually fight this guy. Now, this guy is ridiculous to the point where he has all these attacks which literally all could kill you in just one hit. Or, he has a combo that goes on for so long that no matter how big your health bar is, it's going to take out the full bar. So you need not attacks, but abilities like Second Chance and Once More in order to help you survive these attacks and enable yourself to heal with Curaga or something. But anyway, this boss fight is so ridiculous. Not only does he have attacks like that, okay? He has attacks that last for a really long time, combos that last for a really long time. But he also has an attack which duplicates himself 6 times over that, has different versions or different, versions of him launching different attacks at you. And this gets so extreme and so crazy that the PSP starts to slow down, the frame rate starts to go down ridiculously, and everything starts going crazy all over the place. So while you're mashing the square button to roll out the way, this guy's constantly attacking you, and the whole game is just working against you completely, in the sense that it doesn't want you to complete this boss because it just throws everything but the kitchen sink at you, and it gets really ridiculous, and the difficulty skyrockets through the roof, because not only do you have this one dude that could pretty much kill you with all of his attacks, but he could duplicate himself, which has multiple versions of him which could do all the same thing, and on top of that, the game is slowing down in the frame rate, which completely breaks the entire game. Now, there is a strategy to get by him, and it took me a long time. It took me about a good, almost close to a month or so, or at least under a month, to actually beat this dude, and it's ridiculous. I did finally beat him, and it also brings up another gripe. Once you do beat him, you do get another Keyblade, but it's not as strong as the Keyblades that you've gotten before, okay? Here's my main point to drive all this home, okay? Boss fights, okay, have to have that level of difficulty where it kind of pushes you past the limit of what you faced on previous enemies throughout an entire video game, or at least entire game that's what you're playing and stuff. But there needs to be kind of like a barrier or a line somewhere that needs to be drawn that puts like a cap on the type of difficulty. Now, I'm not like anybody else where I complain about boss fights and stuff, okay, that, as how difficult that they are or whatever. I like my challenging boss fights. Don't get me wrong, especially if it ties into the story really well, and really, emphasizes the emotional impact for that character going through whatever it is that he's going through. I don't mind that. For example, Final Fantasy VII, unless you level grind a lot and really got your level, or your party, I should say, at least past level 50 or so in Final Fantasy VII towards the third disc of the game, okay, you were going to get the crap kicked out of you when you fought Sephiroth and Genova at the very end, okay? But at least you knew you had something to do, okay? There was something put clear-cut in front of you, or at least you understood, like you looked online at GameFAQs or whatever to get a strategy and then was able to do it, with ease. There's still some challenge, but with ease, okay? There are some boss fights, for example, this mysterious figure, which I mentioned before, okay, that takes, not only does it take a strategy that you really have to be on point with, but because the game is so the attacks are so game-breaking and pretty much the hardware is what's working against you, that is not fun at all, okay? It's one thing to be challenging and fun at the same time, and then there's another way to be challenging and frustrating, okay? And honestly, I don't like games that pretty much, enable someone or enable me to get frustrated while I'm playing them, because I'm supposed to be having fun throughout the games. I want a good challenge, but I at least want to continue to have fun while I'm getting that challenge. I at least want to keep going back and playing it. It wasn't like the Sephiroth fight in Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 Kingdom Hearts 1 being the hardest one of the two for the Sephiroth fights. But as hard as that was, there was a clear-cut strategy of what you had. There were more options to do, and the hardware wasn't working against you when you were fighting this character. He was difficult and tough, but there was a strategy that you could follow with this, okay? There's a strategy with this guy, but just the fact that the hardware working against you is too much, and I don't think that's right. If anything, that Square Enix should have at least toned it down a little bit. As much as, I hate to say that, should have toned it down a little bit to make sure that the PSP itself is not going all crazy while you're fighting during this boss fight, because you never, ever experience that in any other point in the game, unless you're playing like multiplayer, and that is understandable because of the ad hoc communication. When you're playing single player with just that one PSP, there shouldn't be any frame rate slowdown in that one specific spot, okay, if there's no other spots throughout the entire game that experiences that, okay? If there are any frame rate issues like that, honestly, then there's a whole bunch of stuff that the company needs to do in order to fix up their game. But that also brings another thing into light, okay? After going through this ridiculous boss fight, okay, I expected something, a Keyblade or something else on top of that, as a good reward for having gone through such a ridiculously hard battle, okay, a ridiculously hard enemy that, is pretty much the hardest in the entire game. All I got was a Keyblade that pretty much, or a weapon or an item that I'm never going to use again in the entire game, ever. Okay, there's two other better Keyblades that I could use besides, because the Keyblade you get from this guy is called No Name, and that pretty much, it has reduced strength, but it gives you ridiculous magic, okay? But the problem is that most players that do play Kingdom Hearts aren't really using the magic as much. They're using magic, but they're not using it as much as, let's say, their physical attacks or mashing X for the most part, okay? With the other two Keyblades, what I'm mentioning, which would be Zero Gear, which you get from Vanitas Sentiment, and also the Ultimate Keyblade, which is pretty much the most balanced Keyblade in that game. That's what makes it the Ultimate Keyblade, okay? Those two Keyblades you're going to be using a lot because physical attacks you use, like, if they were going out of style, and it has a balanced, as balanced magic upon physical strength, like that. Something like No Name, okay, where pretty much it's just all magic. You're not going to be using all magic like that, and I'm never going to use something like that ever at all. That brings to light this one point that I want to stress. When you go through something that's so hard and you put so much time and effort into it, you expect to get at least a good payoff out of it, okay? Or at least something. Like, for example, if you went through a ridiculously hard boss fight and, let's say, I don't know, a God of War game, for example, if you beat it on God mode, not only do you get a bunch of concept art and movies and stuff, but you also get outfits and stuff for Kratos to wear. In this game, it's not like that. You just get this one Keyblade and just the fact to say that you just beat this character, okay? And honestly, that's not a good enough payoff for me, okay? Yes, I want the bragging rights for being able to beat such a hard character, but there has to be other stuff for me to check out and other stuff for me to feel much more of a sense of accomplishment and something much more that I could use at the moment after I beat that character for the rest of the game, even if I'm never going to play the game again for whatever reason. There has to be something extra for me, to at least get that much more of that satisfaction from beating such a hard boss. Okay, that's all I'm saying, people. Okay, boss fights, you know, there has to be a balance between fun and challenge, okay, and difficulty and challenge, okay, and there also has to be a good payoff at the end of them, okay. That's, in my opinion, makes some of the best boss fights hands down, okay. Anyway, that's just my thoughts on the whole matter. Leave your comments and video responses. I don't mind. Just keep it civil. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know, or at least let everybody know here in the comment section, some of the hardest boss fights you've probably faced in any sort of game whatsoever. And I'll talk to you guys again real soon. Venomous is out, and that was only the goddamn truth, people. Bringing it to you, the real truth. Talk to you all later.